بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا اللهم اجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه صلوات الله. So, this is the third session of a four-session course related to Imam Mahdi alayhi salam in Quran, or the broader concept of Mahdawiyya in Quran. We were talking about overall 7 categories of verses, Quranic verses related to this concept. If you remember last week, we talked about the ayah B with the truthful ones, ayat Laylatul Qadr. There is a witness among each nation. So I wanted to quickly go back. There was a not new. I saw Fakhr Razi's commentary on the ayat about witness. I thought that would be interesting, especially some friends, they had follow-up discussions or questions during the week. So let's quickly go back. I added to the slide deck, and then we come here and then continue. So if you remember, there were a group of Quranic verses telling us that there is a witness in any nation, which they will be called, they will be summoned in the day of judgment. And we talked about what witness means and all of that. It was very interesting to see how a Sunni scholar like Fakhr Razi understood it. And it's very same thing about Isma and infallibility. And unfortunately, same justification at the end that it's Ummah, which technically doesn't make much sense, right? So let's read that together. But before that, this is a quote from the author of Tafsir Majma' al-Bayan, At-Tabarsi, who basically clearly says this group of verses talking about having a witness in each nation. It shows that that's what we say, that at all time there is a person on earth that fulfill that promise of God. But Fakhr Razi, when he talks about Surah An-Nahl, ayah 89, read this. It's very interesting. He says, so we know that this is not only at the time of Prophet, and the existence of a witness and guide is something that we cannot question in every era. See, these are not our points. So a quick, let me take one step back. Assalamu alaikum. These 3 or 4 first categories that we are talking about, they are in a zahir of the text, like apparent meaning of the text. If we pay attention, it implies what we are talking about. And to show that, or to strengthen our position, we are bringing evidence from other school of thought scholars that this is not something that we are pushing. When Quran says on the day of judgment, we will call a witness from each nation, see what Fakhr Razi understands from it. So first he says, أما الشهيد على الذين كانوا في عصر رسول الله, the witness from the people that they were at the time of Prophet, of course, was Prophet. But this doesn't stop, and it continues. So consequently, no period is devoid of someone bearing witness over the people. And this person, this witness, must in no way be prone to error. Otherwise, they themselves would require another witness. It's very interesting that the implication that he understood is that witness, because he will be called on the day of judgment in the court of God, that himself cannot be sinful because he needs another witness. You see the logic? So he concludes that that person should be what? Should be ma'soom. لابد وأن يكون غير جائز الخطأ. So otherwise he will need another person. So, but now it's very interesting because from their Aqidah perspective, they lack fulfilling that concept. So they say, oh, you know what? So then who is that person? This implies that the consensus of the community serves as proof. Subhanallah. Now, the ijma of Muslim community is the witness that will called upon in the day of judgment. How that will work? Go ask Fakhr Razi. But the main point was, I wanted to mention this, that he understands the same way that we understand, that this is talking about a person that is present. He should be infallible, otherwise he himself needs another witness to be called against him in the day of judgment. Okay, so with that, if I just wanted to share that and then go back to our slides. So we were talking about the group of verses of Quran that they were talking about the continuity of divine representative on earth, which means at all time there is a divinely appointed person. Meaning, even if we don't have any historical evidence of the birth of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, with knowing about these verses, it is confirmed that there should be a person on earth. We know it, we know him, or we don't know him. So there was one story left from last week. Again, I'm sorry that we are going a little bit all over the place, but I just want to bring that up, and then we'll be back on track. So, kind of also to refresh our memories, the ayah that we were talking about, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha wa kunu ma'as sadiqin, be with the truthful ones, right? You remember that? There was one other story that I wanted to mention, that Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam has used this ayah as a reference, rather remind people about this story that happened in the time of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That munashadat is a term that when Imam Ali would call people and say, I ask you by Allah, like I put you under the oath, tell me, were you present in the time of Prophet this and that happened or not? And then they will confirm. So Imam asked people that, do you remember that when this ayah was revealed, Salman, Salamullah alayhi, he asked, O Rasulullah, is this ayah ammatun hadha am khassa? Is it general or specific? Meaning, ayah says, be with the truthful ones, right? So is it general or specific? The response of Prophet is so interesting. The people that they are the subject of the command, as for those commanded, it is general. Like everyone is basically is commanded to do so. It is general. Whoever commanded witness. But as for the truthful, it is specific to my brother Ali and my successors after him until the day of judgment. So Imam Ali alayhi salam is reminding people years after Prophet, don't you remember this scene happened and Salman asked that question? And the audience, they responded, Allahumma bala. Yes, we remember that happened. So Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed people that this ayah, kunu ma'as sadiqin, the command is for everyone, but the sadiqin is not amma. So someone asked last week that why it is plural. One reason is because it is shown, it doesn't mean that it's everyone. Rather, it's plural because it's talking about all the imams after Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So with that, let's go to the next group of verses under this continuity of divine representative. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. we have this ayah or this concept in a couple of places in Quran. يريدون ليطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم والله متم نوره ولو كره الكافرون. يريدون أن يطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم ويأبى الله إلا أن يتم نوره ولو كره الكافرون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. So Quran is showing a contrast, maybe like two different forces. They want to do what? They desire to put out the light of Allah. The concept of light in Quran, if we go and see, a lot of times it is used to, at least one of the meanings refer to guidance. A great example for that is Ayatul Nur. Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. Mathalu nurihi kamishkatin fiha misbah. It's a very beautiful ayah. At the end, ayah says, Yahdillahu li nurihi man yasha, which implies that nur, light, is the light of guidance. And we have that in the ahadith. Nur samawati wal ard, ay hadi man fis samawati wal ard. The Imam explains that Allah is the light, meaning that Allah is the guide and provide guidance. Nur Allah, hidayatullah, the guidance from God. So there are two, looking at macro level from over the mankind, humanity on earth, there are two strong forces. One side, يريدون ليطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم. They want to put out the light of God by or with their mouth. They think that they can blow and it's like a candle. God uses that beautiful metaphor to explain that and already answers the question, who will win that battle? But Allah will perfect His light. Mutimmu. Mutimmu from tamam, complete, perfect. Meaning that the implication again is that it's not a time that we have an era that there is no light. The light always is there. Wallahu mutimmu nurih. They want to put it out. God doesn't let that happen. And we have that in two places in Quran. And it's interesting that we have a hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam confirms again this implication from the apparent meaning of the text, that Imam says the earth will not be empty of the proof from God. And Imam reads this ayah because God has willed, wanted, desires to win that battle between him and those negative forces that they desire to put out the light. Okay, with that, let's go to the second group of verses. So we are now basically shifting gears. We were talking about the continuity of existence of Hujjah. Now we're going to talk about the promise that Allah has made about the earth. And there are a couple of verses in Quran that they talk about it, which basically implies and approves the concept of Mahdawiyah. First ayah in Surah Al-A'raf, verse 128, which is basically kind of the high-level statement that إِنَّ الْأَرْض لِلَّهِ يُورِثُهَا مَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The earth indeed belongs to Allah, and He gives its inheritance to whomever He wishes of His servants. And the final victory is for the pious ones. There are a couple of important points here. And there are some like background or context. There were claims by the idol worshippers and the kuffar that, you know what, the dunya is ours. God, for some reasons, either is hands off or just will not interfere, so we will win. This dunya is ours. If we know that context, a lot of Quranic verses, they will have different meaning. That, knowing that Allah is responding. Because otherwise it doesn't make much sense that in al-arda lillah, who said it's for someone else. There were claimers that they claim that no, this world, we are in power. We are the Lord of this world. So God, inshallah, we'll talk about it today more, says, no, I may let things happen here and there. Some tyrants have a short time victory, but don't think that I have basically, I let this go and just you win. No. آخرة, definitely. لمن الملك اليوم لله الواحد القهار. I will call who owns the power in the day of judgment. I show my full power in the hereafter. But even in this dunya, don't think that these little noises that they make, they're winning. And that's a very beautiful concept. If you have that in mind, you will see a lot of places in Quran telling the stories of prophets. Sometimes you say, okay, why they go to these details? This is the bigger picture, and also the previous ayat that we were talking about, that yuriduna liyutfi'u nur Allah. They want to put out the light of God. God will not let that happen. And he has shown a lot of examples in Quran, which we'll talk about. So basically, the earth belongs to God, and he is the one who decides and inherits it to whoever he wants. وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The final victory is for the pious ones, that God will make them the victorious on earth. And that concept is not new. It's something that God has talked about it in previous scriptures and reminded us and gave more details in Quran. This ayah is one of the very beautiful ayat, most beautiful ayat related to Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. You may have heard it a lot. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Just look at the language, the lordship, kingship language that God is talking in this ayah. وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. Certainly, we wrote in the Psalms of David, after the dhikr, indeed, my righteous servants shall inherit the earth. It is not talking about akhirah. So that promise should fulfill. As we're going to see in coming slides, when God promises something, it's just, he's at stake, right? Like, I promised, and I have all power to make that promise happen. And he repeatedly, in many places in Quran and in other scriptures, has said, I have promised that this earth belongs to me. I may let these tyrants make some noise for some wisdoms and reasons, but eventually they won't win. I am the winner. And my people, my team, basically the pious ones, are the winners, and I will make them the inheritors of the earth. You may question, is that possible? How? Look at the earth, all of those. So we'll talk about it. God brings his resume. Sorry for these examples, but say, okay, no, I have a resume. I have done this. I have the experience. I know how to do it, and I will show you. And then that's one of the keys to the details of the stories of prophets that are mentioned in Quran. So even nowadays, in the Psalms of David, we see those words and that promise, which is so beautiful. I brought it here. We're going to read it. I asked Brother Muhammad Saleh, can you please read? Oh, there is a question. What does perfect mean in this verse? So basically, to perfect something means to do it right. Also, it means to make it complete, right? That's why I a little bit elaborated. Mutemmu means like to make it complete. So with that,
yeah,
yes.
My question was, I posted the question. So the reason I asked is, it's why is Allah saying in the future He'll perfect, considering that the Prophet and the Imams are already here?
It's not future. Mutemmu is like present and future. It's ism fa'il, like doing it already. وَيَأْبَى اللَّهُ, and both of them, both ayat, mutemmu is ism fa'il, which implies like continuity, and the next one also, إِلَّا أَن يُتِمَّ نُورَهُ. It is also present and future. And if you look at it in the contrast with the يُرِيدُونَ لِيُطْفِئُوا, they desire to put out the light. God doesn't let that happen. It means that that light always exists. Does that make sense? You say, you want that? I won't let you do that. So you want to turn that light off? I won't let it happen. So that means that light of guidance always will be present. So, yes, please pay attention to these beautiful verses from Psalms, Zabur of Dawood alayhi salam, and see how it relates to the ayah that Quran says this is not something new. You, mankind, you are familiar with this concept. We have talked about it before. We have written in the Psalms of David to other prophets. And now, because this promise will be fulfilled in the time of the best prophet, by the best wasi, Imam Zaman sallallahu alayhi, we reiterate and give you more details. Go ahead, please.
The verse, the Quran, right? I should start there.
No, read the Psalms of David if you don't mind.
Okay, I see. Okay. Psalm 37. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. For they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as the green herb. Psalm 37 continues, for evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. For yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be. Thou shalt diligently consider his place, and it shall not be. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. How are you mute?
Thank you all. So I was saying this, the language that Allah uses in Psalms of David, we have that in Quran a lot. It's so fascinating, amazing that for us, it's a little while, 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years. It's just blink of an eye. فَمَهِّلِ الْكَافِرِينَ أَمْهِلْهُمْ رُوَيْدًا. Give them some time, let them have fun, let them be happy. There are, again, greater wisdom. Don't think, that's the point. Don't think we letting them do what they're doing is out of our weakness, that they're winning. No, we are the victors. The earth belongs to God. Continue, please.
Okay, sorry, continues. For such as be blessed of him shall inherit the earth, and they shall be cursed of him shall be cut off. For the Lord loveth judgment, and forsaketh not his saints. They are preserved forever, but the seed of the wicked shall be cut off. The righteous shall inherit the land and dwell therein forever.
Thank you so much. The last ayah, if we can call it the ayah, Psalms 37:29, it's exactly what Quran is talking about. And the rest, as you saw, the whole chapter is about it. The righteous shall inherit the land and dwell therein forever. So, and we will talk about this later as well, but a very beautiful reminder. Who are the righteous ones? Whoever they are, which we of course know who they are. Both, the lead are the Imams alayhi salam and Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, but his companions, the people of Imam Zaman alayhi salam, they are also part of that Abadiyya Salam because they will be the rulers. And we have that in the narrations of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And it's very interesting that we say salam to them at least 5 times. Where? In our prayer, when we say Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillah as-salihin, who are the ibadillah as-salihin? ولقد كتبنا في الزبور من بعد الذكر أن الأرض يرثها عبادي الصالحين. So, there are layers in our prayers, in our namaz, which sometimes we neglect. And even before that, we say salam to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is another sign that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is alive. And this is something both Sunnis and Shia, they say in their tashahhud and their salam. And then assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin. I know this is mustahab. Some people, they are in rush, so they cut it. But it gives us more motivation to say it with more attention next time, inshallah. When we are praying, we finish our prayer with the prayer and dua for Imam Zaman alayhi salam and his special companions, that they will be the rulers of the earth and the inheritors of the earth. All right. With that, let's go to the next ayah. Any questions so far? Okay. Yes.
Going back a little bit, you have like two verses on the continuity, and like they're both the same verse but in different surahs. I was wondering if there's
about the light.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Is there a context difference between them, or
actually, there was another ayah as well. I thought I have it, but maybe because of that technical issue that I had for slides, there, like in terms of the context, it's a general statement but different words. So if you mean like who it's the mukhatab, the audience is, I don't know if there is a specific like difference. It's in general talking to kafirun, like non-believers, and saying the general statement, like something that God is saying that you want to turn out the light, right? But I will not let that happen.
You said that it's slightly different words. What are the different words?
There are a couple of, like, if you want to be, nitty gritty. Wallahu mutimmu nurih wa ya'ba Allah illa an yutimma nurih. Technically, they are the same. I don't want to say it's the same. It's Quranic verse, but the meaning, the implication is the same. Wa ya'ba Allah, meaning that, but Allah is intent on perfecting His light. He is determined to do that. It's not a good word used for Allah, but you know what I mean? The other one is like a continuous wallahu mutimmu nurih. This is, as I said, ism fa'il in Arabic, meaning that he's doing it. Right? You have a comment? No? Okay. So, okay, let's go to the next ayah, which is another powerful statement by God. In Surah Qasas, which talks a lot about the story of Prophet Musa for a good reason, in the beginning, Allah says, وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. We usually, when Allah uses the plural, is showing the sovereignty and power. We desire to show favor to those who were abased in the land, and to make them the imams, and to make them heirs. So the concept of earth, remember the title was Allah's promise about the earth. Allah has said, I will not let the earth be taken by the rebellious ones, right? I will be the winner, and I'm the one that will inherit the earth to my ibadiyah salihun. And this is a favor to those at some point throughout the history, they are weakened or abased in the land. But eventually, the final victory is with the pious ones. So the place of this ayah in the surah is so beautiful. Sometimes I myself, when I was young, this was one of the very first ayat that we memorized or learned about Imam Mahdi. It was like, okay, this ayah is about Imam Mahdi. But the entire Surah Al-Qasas is about what? Not the entire, but a big chunk of it is about the story of Prophet Musa. Even the beginning of it is like that. So, was the ayah misplaced or this or that? No. It's an kind of opening remarks of the surah. Quran, that part that I said, this is the resume. Again, this is just an example. You know, you have your main thing at the top of the resume, then you provide your supportive evidences and this and that. This is kind of like that, which gets your attention. At the beginning of the surah, Quran says, نَتْلُو عَلَيْكَ مِن نَبَأِ مُوسَى وَفِرْعَوْنَ بِالْحَقِّ لِقَوْمٍ يُؤْمِنُونَ. I want to tell you a story of Musa and Fir'aun. Again, these two forces, Quran talks about them a lot. يريدون ليطفئوا نور الله والله متم نوره. إن فرعون علا في الأرض وجعل أهلها شيعا. Quran says, Allah says, indeed, Fir'aun tyrannized over the land. So sometimes I say that person is like corrupt, you know, or do crazy things, because I'm a small, anything little may look big to me. And at the end, Quran says, إِنَّهُ كَانَ مِنَ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. Indeed, he was one of the agents of corruption. Calling someone agent of corruption, I mean, you understand what I mean, but you should be worthy of that title. You should be bad enough to be called that way. So Fir'aun was the agent of corruption. Quran, again, first depicts these two forces. يَسْتَضْعِفُ طَائِفَةً مِّنْهُمْ يُذَبِّحُ أَبْنَاءَهُمْ وَيَسْتَحْيِي نِسَاءَهُم. He had a plan. Fir'aun had heard that there will be a son that will end his time. So he said, okay, I have a plan. It's very simple. Musa, don't worry about it. I command, I have power. Every boy that is born, right on the spot, they should be killed. Perfect plan, right? Quran says he had a plan, but we had a plan too. Now let's see who wins. Then it continues with this story. Like we will make them establish on earth, and then they will have the power. And then it goes back from the time of birth of Musa. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَىٰ أَنْ أَرْضِعِيهِ فَإِذَا خِفْتَ عَلَيْهِ فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ. If you read that with knowing this context, it's so amazing. Like, wow, now every single ayah shows the plan of God. We told mother of Musa, don't worry, feed him, and then when you were scared, just throw him in the river. وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي إِنَّا رَادُّوهُ إِلَيْكِ وَجَاعِلُوهُ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. We will bring him back to you. There will be short time of fear, mother of Musa, but don't worry, we have your back, because we have desired, we willed to make him the winner, and we make that happen. And the continuous of the story, not just we just make him we make him winner, rather in a very beautiful way, I make Fir'aun to raise him, to take care of him, and we plan that you go back and feed him, and all that beautiful story of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. So why too much details about Prophet Musa? Because that's a sign, that's one example of the power of God fulfilling what he has promised in a perfect, amazing way. And at the end, he says, we threw the body of Pharaoh out of river, because that needs to stay. People, generations in history, it should be engraved that who won the battle. Okay? So, inshallah, that helps we understand the context better, and that ayah, how powerful and strong that is. So with that, let's go to another ayah. Any question? Let me check the chat. Yes.
So, in the Psalms, it said like a meek shall inherit, and also in the Quranic verse, it said a base. Is that like a characteristic of the Imam, or is it just their oppressed?
Ahsan. Like, it is kind of implying that those pious ones, those meek, basically, as Psalms called them, they will be weakened, abased, oppressed. right? It is my comment. Don't worry, don't panic when you saw that, oh, wow, what's going on? Where are you, God? Don't you see this and that? God says, we know. They have been weakened on earth, abased, oppressed. Be patient. I'm watching. And I say this sometimes, don't feel bad. I mean, maybe feel bad, but don't feel too bad, because angels, they had this challenge and question on the day of Ashura. When they saw the tragedy of Ashura, they couldn't take it. And they said, God, are you seeing what's going on? Don't worry, I know. And in that hadith, Imam says, in that moment, Allah showed the angels the light of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. بهذا أنتقل. اللهم صل على. Again, my interpretation, the amazing victory will be recognized and seen when the other side did a lot of corruption. Again, not that God is content with it and happy with it. He lets it happen, for a reason. Then I will show you who has the power. بهذا أنتقل. I have a plan. And my plan is not without precedence. Quran shows a lot of those examples, which, as I said, when we don't pay attention to this context, we say, okay, it's a qasas, okay, stories, beautiful stories, ahsan al-qasas, Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam. Of course it is ahsan al-qasas, but there are some greater wisdoms in it, like which, inshallah, we'll talk about Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam as well, how like clearly there are a lot of signs and examples in the story of Yusuf related to Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, because that's the most important mission on earth. That's the most important promise that God has made, that the earth will be inherited by the pious ones. And that's my will, and that's my promise. So again, this is a new lens when we see Quran from that, with this ayah, for example. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم اعلموا be aware, know أن الله يحيي الأرض بعد موتها قد بينا لكم الآيات لعلكم تعقلون. Know that Allah revives the earth after its death. We have certainly made the signs clear for you so that you may exercise your reason, use your aql. So, as you can tell, this ayah can have and has like different meanings, different layers. And all of them are correct. I mean, it's not that we say, no, this is wrong. At one level, maybe surface level, it's talking about spring. It's a great sign of God. The Imams and Prophets, they have reminded us, when you see springtime, remind yourself a lot about the Day of Judgment. See, everything was dead, now they revived. We will resurrect you the same way that we have done. There's a reason that we made these 4 seasons. So also, if we, another deeper layer, يحيي الأرض بعد موتها. Al-ard refers to the earth, and we know that the earth altogether will not experience the spring, right? Does that make sense? That the entire earth be dead and revived. So, and what is the death of ard, the earth? Some people may argue, you know what? No, in winter it's not dead. There are some little life going on, right? So when we see the explanations from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, now we see that they are talking different layer, and now it connects with the other concepts that we were talking about, the promise of God, these 2 forces, that there are going to be some oppressions, but eventually we will revive it. There's a hadith from Imam Sadiq from Imam Baqir alayhi salam, narrated in the book of Kamaluddin, that Imam says God will revive the earth by Mahdi alayhi salam. بعد موتها يعني بموتها كفر أهلها. When the inheritors of the earth, inhabitants of the earth, people that they are living on earth, they're not worshiping God. That's the spiritual death. And that's what ayah is talking about. وَالْكَافِرُ مَيِّتٌ. وَالْكَافِرُ مَيِّتٌ. Imam is giving us a key. From a spiritual perspective, someone that denies God, rejects God, is dead. So Allah says He will revive the earth at some point, and قَالَ الْعَدْلُ بَعْدَ الْجَارِ. You see now oppression and dhulm is all over the place, like is basically covering the earth. Wherever you go, there's something going on. Allah says this is death. The earth is dead, but we will revive it. And Allah yuhyi al-ardha ba'da mawtiha. And again, He has shown the past and the experience and examples that He has done it. So with that, let's go to another ayah, which is another most important, most famous ayat about Imam Mahdi, and somehow one of the most comprehensive ones. Just we're running out of time. Once there was a brother who was new to Islam, and he had some questions about Imam Mahdi, and someone like asked me to talk to him. I said okay, and he was like, he used to be like for 20 years Salafi, then for like short period of time became Shia, and I put the ayah in front of him, this ayah, Nur 55. I said, read this ayah. What do you understand from it? And without any comment, he was like, what are those Salafis we're talking about then? This ayah is so clear. So I would argue that up to now, I think these ayat that we are talking about, as I said, the implications are in Zahir. You can talk to any Muslim about them. And we saw examples from Fakhr Razi, from other Sunni scholars, that yes, the ayat, they have a very clear implications that there are at all time, there is a divinely appointed person on earth, a guide, a witness, and the end of time will be with the pious ones. And let's read this ayah, and then we'll have some discussions how that will challenge the other school of thoughts that when they say, you know what, Mahdi will be someone among the ummah, it doesn't have to be divinely appointed or guided. We say no, the ayat show that no, that's not the case. That person that fulfilled that promise of God is not a random person. Why? Let's read this ayah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وعد الله الذين آمنوا منكم وعملوا الصالحات ليستخلفنهم في الأرض كما استخلف الذين من قبلهم وليمكنن لهم دينهم الذي ارتضى لهم وليبدلنهم من بعد خوفهم أمنا يعبدونني لا يشركون بي شيئا ومن كفر بعد ذلك فأولئك هم الفاسقون. Any volunteer to read? Yes, please.
Allah has promised those of you who have faith and do righteous deeds that He will surely make them successors in the earth, just as He made those who were before them successors, and He will surely establish for them their religion, which He has approved for them, and that He will surely change their state to security after their fear, while they worship Me, not ascribing any partners to Me. Whoever is ungrateful after that, it is they who are the transgressors.
Nur 55. Remember that. Qasas 5, there are a couple of very famous ones that at least I hope that can be a takeaway from this course. I hope all of it you will remember. But Nur 55 and Qasas 5 and the other one in Surah Anbiya and Surah Saf 8. Those are some of the very famous ayat and very explicit ones. What do you understand from this ayah? What are the key terms? What are the key points here? I want to pause and want you to think, reflect, and think about it before I continue. Allah has promised. Who? those of you who have faith and do righteous deeds, salihin, He will surely make them successors in there, as He had done it before, right? And He will establish for them their religion. What religion? The one He has approved for them. Okay? So, couple of key terms that they are very important in our understanding. And again, if we wanted to talk to others, again, some of these ayat, I want to repeat this because that might be a question. Some of these Quranic verses are very clear, and they are we are able to use them to talk with others, non-Shias, that about the triumph of Islam, or the Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, he is the divinely appointed person, and the continuity of the Hujjah. Some of the ayat that we have not started them yet, they are more for ourselves, for deepening our understanding from Quran, that, oh, Quran has those ta'wilat, things that are not obvious or hidden layers, but Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam explained, right? So we'll talk about them. But till now, the first three categories, we are in the second one, are very clear, and the implications are obvious from the text. So first, the promise. The promise is so important, because when God promises something, as I give some examples, Surah Al Imran, Ra'd, Zumar, exact wording, Inna Allah la yukhliful mi'ad. Because that's not right when you promise and then you break your promise. And God has all power to fulfill His promises. And He uses that term to emphasize on that. So those of you that they know, the concept of bada and the question of bada, the change in the plan, there is a beautiful narration from Imam Jawad alayhi salam. I just want to remind you about. The person is asking about the signs of coming of Imam Mahdi. And Imam says that can be changed. Bada, meaning that it can be changed. So at the end, the guy is like, I'm concerned now that God decides to cancel the whole plan. Say, you know what? I said it, but change of plan. Imam Mahdi will not come. Imam says, no. That will never, ever happen. Why? Because Imam Mahdi alayhi salam is min al-mi'ad wa anna Allah la yukhlifu al-mi'ad. Allah has promised. When He promised, He has not promised that Sufyani will come. Okay? But the promise is that the earth will be inherited by the righteous one. وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَ. That's a promise. Second point, establish the religion. So that means there will be a religion that will be established and dominant over others, as the other ayat will mention, and that will be our third category. What religion? The religion, الَّذِي ارْتَضَى لَهُمْ, the one that God has approved. So this is the point of discussion. Other schools of thoughts in Islam, according to your system, think about this. According to your system, that you are saying the godly guidance or the connection between heavens and earth basically is disconnected after Prophet, right? With the current system that you have in place, tell me how this ayah will be fulfilled. Which religion is the one that God has approved? Ash'ari, Mu'tazili, Maturidi, Hanafi, Hanbali in terms of fiqh and all. Shi'i, Ja'fari, Ismaili, what? Which one? It should be someone from outside to confirm and approve. Because, see, from based on the current system that we have, there is no new religion, there is no new revelation, there is no new godly appointed person that we can rely on. So how can that happen? Because you are telling me there won't be any godly appointed person. Mahdi will be born and he will be a good guy among Muslims. But good guy among Muslims, we had a lot. How can we be sure that that person is the one who will establish the religion that God has approved? Each of those terms in that verse are very important. Maybe that's why when I put in front of that gentleman, he was like, what else are you talking about? This ayah is enough. Truly, this ayah is enough, right? So, and then again, to your point, it shows that there will be some fear. Khawf is not when you are like fear or being scared. Khawf is against safety. Like feeling unsafe means khawf. Because sometimes that's the question when we were talking about Imam Mahdi. How come Imam Mahdi is khaifan yataraqab? In the story of Musa alayhi salam. Khawf doesn't mean like scared, right? It's just unsafe. Quran says we will turn their unsafety to safe, right? And those phrases in the ayah, those of you who are familiar, are used a lot in the dua, Allahumma aslih, which is recommended to recite in the qunut of Jum'ah by Imam Rida alayhi salam. Allahumma aslih abdaka wa khalifataka bima aslahta bihi anbiya'aka wa rasulak. It continues and uses these terms. وَأَبْدِلْهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ خَوْفِهِمْ أَمْنًا. So there will be safety, and that also implies that, as also Psalms of David said, those wrongdoers will be wiped out. Because if they are there, the safety is jeopardized. Like it's hard to have safety when you know that there are wrongdoers, right?
Abashirazik,
Yes,
when you say the wrongdoers will be wiped out, is it correct to if I understand? So is it correct to believe that 100% of them are going to be wiped out, or is it that it's a proportion thing? Like before coming from Zaman, it's 80%, 20% is good. He's going to change it to 80-20, the other way around. Like what is the meaning of wiped out? Completely or proportional ones?
In terms of shirk, completely. And by the way, when we say wiped out, we should talk about that. Maybe inshallah sometimes in another Imam Mahdi course, we may have deeper in the concepts. What does it mean and how? Which a lot of it is by showing them the light. Majority of people on earth, they have not seen the light of God. They have not tasted the beauty and the sweetness of the light of guidance from God. They saw examples like me or others that, okay, this is, for example, the Islam, and say, okay, thank you, I'm good. Or you see what's going on in the world, right? And we have that a lot in the hadith that Imam alayhi salam explained. What is the process? What is the journey that Imam Mahdi alayhi salam will fulfill that promise? Quran talks about the high level, the main point, that will happen. How? What details? We'll talk about. But according to this ayah and some other ayat, there won't be any shirk on earth, right? But if you ask me, will people, like sin? Yes, because free will is there. But the world will be different, basically. The free will of people will not be taken away, right? However, I think that was your question. But if you are talking about the rebels will be gone. جاء الحق وزهق الباطل. That's another ayah related to Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, which we saw taste of it in the Psalms of David as well.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I guess the question also brings about another question, that what do you mean by fear, right? So there are different levels of fear, different levels of unsafety situations. Maybe that has to be made also. There's a discussion to be made there so that we understand, okay, maybe he's talking about spiritual health, maybe he's talking about physical health, maybe he's talking about security, maybe he's talking about fear of losing loved one, maybe fear of losing your fruits of hard work. Like maybe that sort of context needs to be built, and then we understand this is what Imam Zaman is going to work on and create safety after fear. That I guess that's my question. Like then comes the next question: to what level? Like, is it proportional wise, or is it 100% being wiped out? So I understand now, as you explained, that some aspects is 100%. So it's like monotheism will be the only religion on earth, basically.
If from all aspects, like you saw those narrations that they talk about the time of Imam Zaman alayhi salam, that one of them, I remember, like at that time, it is that safe that someone, not just someone, just a lady carrying like what is it, like a tray of gold and going from Damascus, from Syria all the way to Iraq or whatever, no one will bother her. I mean, this is an example you translate it to nowadays, right? You walk from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore, and then no one will bother you. Lady by herself, carrying a lot of wealth and money and cash, and no one will bother them, right? Walking around in the streets of Baltimore, Muhammad Saleh, imagine that time that no one will bother that person. So it's from all aspects. And yes, from the spiritual perspective as well, that the believers, they will feel safe from all aspects. That means there won't be any those negative forces that Quran was talking about, right? And that's the key battle. What causes, what makes us unsafe? Those that they want to take action, do something, right? Go ahead, Areza. We'll have 1 minute.
Yeah, and what I believe you've also shared in other classes is that oppression will not be able to happen. So the practice of oppression will not be exercised, so much so that even the animals are going to feel safe, where a predator that used to prey on an animal, that animal who was preyed on would now feel comfortable and walk near that predator. And so even at that level, the killing will stop.
Yes. Just in a very high level, I give one another ayah. It's not in my list, but I will mention it. And with that, we can finish today. وَأَشْرَقَتِ الْأَرْضُ بِنُورِ رَبِّهَا. The earth, we're talking about the earth. Maybe I should have added that as well. It will be enlightened by the light of God in that day. Again, when it says وَأَشْرَقَتِ الْأَرْضُ, it's talking about the earth. So it's not talking about hereafter. That's a key. That's a hint for those that they see details, pay attention, right? وَأَشْرَقَتِ الْأَرْضُ بِنُورِ رَبِّهَا. At that time, on that day, the earth will be enlightened by the light of God. We are in darkness now. We think that we are in light. We are in darkness. The earth is dead. It's dominated by the oppressors, the wrongdoers, by the non-believers. This is not life. On that day, the earth will be enlightened. The earth will be different, and all those things, which just quick note, 11:02. So we finished the second category. The third one, we briefly talked about the triumph of the religion of God, which we'll talk about next week. The other parts, as you can see, there are shorter, and there are the second type of Quranic verses that the meanings are not clear in the obvious text, but hidden or with the explanations and hints from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, we understand, right? And that's for our edification and enjoyment, right? So, inshallah, next week we won't have class. Happy Thanksgiving. And then the week after, at Shah Najaf, we will have the program would be our last session, inshallah. So, any question, any comments, any? Yes.
Context of arbitration of shirk. So in the Quran, we have various stories about, like multiple times, how Allah has done this, like at the time of Nuh alayhi salam or Prophet Lut alayhi salam. How can we explain? Because you also mentioned that the free will not be taken. So how is it that the possibility of going back, as the other ummahs have already, gone back to all the evil.
Very good question. Very good question. So for those online, if you didn't hear the question was, we have seen that example in the past, other ummah, that the shirk was basically wiped out, but it came back. How do you guarantee that in the time of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, it will not come back, right? If I paraphrase it correctly. So two things. One is that the guidance, the education, the edification part. That was not in the past like this. In that time, again, that ayah is very beautiful and very short, but to the point. We don't have that in about other prophets. The entire earth will be enlightened. Imam Zaman alayhi salam will complete their aql. We have those narrations. Brings a lot of signs and educate them, right? As well as changing their life in terms of wealth and welfare and all, right? Which is one of the causes for like going wrong direction, right? So there won't be any poor, any poverty, any of those also materialistic problems as well. So there's a whole process. But at the end of the day, still people and human beings, they have free will. In that time, the command is changed. That's another thing about the time of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. So, and this is mentioned in a lot of verses of Quran as well, that taw'an aw karhan. At that time, before that, God had allowed oppressors to do what they wanted to do, right? But in the time of Imam Mahdi, that's also change of command. Ya'ti bi amrin jadid. So his command will be different. Is not letting the rebels, the negative forces that they are actively in war with God, to be successful. No. In the past, we gave you time, but now God says, now this is my time in full power. So both from education, as I said, economy, all of those things, perfecting and completing their aql and intellect and bringing a lot of guidance. Imagine, because in the past, the Imams alayhi salam, they didn't have much opportunity to educate people. And we all know, majority of people are not rebels. There are very minority ones, right? That they are like that. Majority, they are val, they are lost. They have not seen the light, right? If they had seen the light, they would follow it. And who caused that? The tyrants. But because they will go away, the Imam alayhi salam will be able to spread and disseminate the knowledge, the light of God. That itself has a big big role in terms of guaranteeing that. But because it's still free will is there, but because of the change of the plan, change of the command, God says, now my person is open-handed. In the past, we said, okay, you can do whatever you want. But now, Imam Mahdi alayhi salam will be allowed to take action. After all of those signs, all of those guidances, all those good things, if you still want to be crazy, now you don't have time anymore. In the past you had, but now you can't. Okay? So with that, let's adjourn our session. Inshallah, we'll continue on December 8th, and that would be our last session. With that, let's recite the dua for health, protection, and asking Allah to hasten the appearance of Imam alayhi salam to fulfill his promise. These great promises that Allah has made. When we pray, we are asking, or we are showing God that we want to be part of them as well. As I said, when we say Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillah as-salihin in our namaz, we pray for them. So we show that, yes, we want to be with you, and we are showing our support at least by praying and to be preparing and all good stuff. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج واجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره وبلغه منا تحية وسلاما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد صلوات الله.